And it passes. 4.2, report out of closed session. There is nothing to report. Bear with Mrs. Davis. She's really a little bit out of practice on this, so we will give it a whirl. 5.1, pledge of allegiance to the flag. Mr. O'Banion, please.
Excellent.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Six point one location. Please bow your heads if you're so inclined. Lord, as this school year draws to an end, we thank you for the strength that you've given us to weather the ups and downs. We ask you, while we're apart from each other, to please bless and put your hedge of protection over our students and staff. We ask you, Lord, moving forward as we prepare to reset and renew for the new year, that you give us grace, wisdom, and patience. In your name we pray, amen. Informational item 7.1, fiscal cash status update. Alyssa Clinton, Assistant Superintendent, Business Service. Good evening.
Glad I am to be here. So I spent 2.5 days on the jury report serving jury duty, and I was excused today. So I'm glad to be back doing what I know how to do instead of sitting for a week on a trial.
Don't they know it's May revised? You don't have time for that.
Exactly. I was sitting there thinking, how can I get out of this? I'll go through the process. It's all going to work out, and it did. So, but as you mentioned, yes, just last week, Governor Newsom presented the May revision and his proposed budget for the state of California for 2023. The May revision updates the estimate of revenues and expenditures and replaces the estimates from the governor's budget submitted in January. And given the state revenue windfall since January, the governor has significantly expanded his proposals, but there's a certain warning, which I'll get to at the end. So tomorrow I actually go to the workshop, which I'm glad to be able to go to. So I won't get into too much detail here today. However, initial impressions of the 22-23 May revision include an increase in our Education Prop 98 funding of nearly $19.6 billion over the 3-year span of 2020 to 2023, as compared to what he had shown us in January. So the local control funding formula has proposed now a 6.56% COLA, which is expected to be funded given the revenues of the state. And that's an increase from 5.33%. Also proposes an additional amount of $2.1 billion in ongoing Prop 98 general fund monies to increase the LCFS base funding, which is a pretty huge, significant change. And that's in order to help with the rising cost of pension costs and cost of goods and services, as we all know, inflation, and addressing other local concerns, because the base funding is unrestricted dollars that we use for everything that we need to accomplish. So same as in January, there is a proposal to help mitigate the drop in enrollment and the ADA, allowing for our funding to be based in 21-22, which is this year, on the greater of our current year ADA or current year enrollment with an adjustment for pre-COVID absence rates. So I don't know too much about that, but I'll hear more about that tomorrow. And then it still mentions that we will be able to use that 3-year average to determine revenues. So I'm thinking first we determine our adjusted ADA for this year and then can apply that 3-year average. But I'll know more tomorrow. And next month we'll have the budget hearing, so it'll all be incorporated by next time I see you. In addition, there's flexible one-time funding of $8 billion proposed to be allocated on a per pupil basis. This is obviously one-time funding and only to be used on one-time expended expenses. Once it's spent, it's gone, and in no way will this be used to continually staffing. It's an ongoing obligation for the district. Other priorities continue to be the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, of which he added another $403 million to that in ongoing funds and some additional one-time infrastructure funds. And then additional increases to state preschool funding and a hold harmless regardless of attendance as well, would provide, and additional funds to provide support for students with disabilities. And if that's incorporated into the final budget, that would benefit us because we run a state preschool. So that would help any encroachment of our preschool on our general fund budget. So in spite of all of that and the increase in windfall dollars, one specific thing that's printed in the overview of the governor's budget proposal about the school services of California, which says, in spite of the increased revenues, the governor used much of his introductory statement paralleling the current tax collections, robust tax collection 2000. The words were meant as a warning and a signal that history may be on the cusp of repeating itself. That had the legislature known that a crash was about to happen in 2000, much more of the surplus would have been allocated in one-time investments. So this admonishment or warning is interspersed throughout the governor's revised spending plan, meaning he's incorporated not just all of it is ongoing, thinking that California's robust economy is going to continue, but taking into account that things might be changing. So we put money into the rainy day account, which is a requirement, and the extra windfall was in one-time dollars instead of just adding to the Prop 98 ongoing dollars. So that's the May revise. And next we'll go through our COVID dollars. So I first want to look at chart. The chart that shows COVID resources and in the workshop we had a week or two ago, how much of our COVID resources have we actually received in revenues? And how she's pulling it up. But if you have the one that has just all the dollars, it shows our 21-22 budget, and then in the next column it says 21-22 actuals. That's still not quite the right one, RJ. That's the one. Okay, so in the box at the very top, the 21-22 budget is in the first column, split by our federal and state revenues in the top. And then it says actuals. So you can see of our federal dollars we've received to date $5,699,668. So those are actual cash dollars that we have received. As far as state, it's $1.6 million. So for a total of cash revenues received of our COVID dollars, $7.3 million. That's significant to know because that's what gets into that cash flow, and which is what is helping us maintain a very healthy cash balance, which is good. But we won't always have the COVID dollars as a cushion in our cash balance. This form goes on to show you the different categories of each line: ESSER 1, ESSER 2, gear, CRF. Those are all the different pots of COVID dollars. They all have kind of different uses. They have different amounts that we've received. And it's all of those together that have given us our entire budget of $17,490,244 to be used in our COVID response. So we look next, so how will we spend some of those COVID dollars? In our workshop, I showed you a listing of different things that we've spent. But if you want to look at this one that has in green. Resources that are listed down the left-hand side, now across the top. Totaling, they're saying 17.4 million. And this shows you like a category of what the dollars were spent on. This planning sheet here doesn't have budget. It does say budget planning at the top, but this is actual dollars spent in each of these resources current to the date of 3/31/2022, which is the amount of funds I've reported to the CDE. So this coincides with the reports I provided to the CDE through March 31st. It says it has a category, and then the CDE wants to know the box in green. Those are the big areas that they want to know how we spent those dollars on. Is it in-person instruction, distance learning, technology, planning and coordination, learning loss, other supports, staffing positions, or operations and facilities. So you can look on the bottom of that form in the green highlighted section and see how much we've spent. We go all the way over to the right. For example, operations and facilities spent to date 1.9 million. It's very bottom. So I'll let you look at those dollars at your leisure. Charts are just the same data in a different form. This is the one with the blue bars, highlights in the categories that we normally look at our budget dollars. If it's certificated salaries, classified salaries, benefits, books and supplies, services and operating expenses, capital outlay, and then other outgoing and total expenses to date. So that's the blue bars. And then the yellow, which gives you an example of all of our expenses to date, what's remaining and what's unallocated. And just the same data in a picture. See at a glance. And the last thing I'll address is the cash flow. As I said, you can see now in actuals are through April. And the dollars that we received in revenues are in the top section. So total receipts for the month of April were 4.2 million. Total expenditures, disbursements in April, 2.8 million, which gave a net cash flow for the month of April of 1.3 million positive. And then an ending cash is indicated at the bottom of the page. May and June continue to be projections of what might happen with cash coming in and the cash going out. And it does show that cash will be adequate to meet our financial obligations through the end of June. Questions?
I don't think so. Thank you so much. Thank you, Superintendent report, Mrs. Dpol.
The good board, staff, and community. Everybody here. For our May superintendent report, so we're going to move on to starting with our enrollment data. Staying pretty consistent to previous months, breakdown of district and school site. COVID district report. So we definitely are seeing a decline in our COVID incidences. Student data this month, 185 total incidences with 10 student positives, and 38 students have been sent home with symptoms. Staff data since April 1st, we've only had 1 positive and 158 tested among staff. COVID news. The immunization mandate will not go into effect in the 22-23 school year. It'll be reevaluated for the 23-24 school year. There is a slight concern that we're keeping our eye on in regards to immunizations in general, not necessarily COVID immunizations, but because of the state and federal resources have been allocated towards creating COVID immunizations, there may be a shortage of regular immunizations. So we are asking all of our families that are requiring immunizations to please schedule an appointment with your doctors now. Don't wait until the summer. Team's working on that. Attendance data. So looking at our attendance percentage, we went up from 91% to a 92.5% in April.
However, our chronic absenteeism staying pretty stable from March to April at 19.3%, not meeting our first year goal. Suspensions and expulsions are down for the month of April. 9 suspensions compared to March with 21, and 1 expulsion for the month of April. We continue to put our efforts towards instructional walkthroughs with total of 703 instructional walkthroughs since we started in February, and completing 166 instructional walkthroughs in our classrooms and our teams. Some academic highlights. Summer school planning is just about finished, and our teams are working really hard to provide a very engaging and purposeful summer school program. And we're also working on providing literacy and numeracy tools for all of our students, which you will see a approval for our elementary students for flashcards to start the 22-23 school year tonight. We had the Dpol High School Showcase last night, and I wanted to highlight some data that I was pretty impressed with. We had 264 students earn 387 professional certifications. So that's certifications that they can use to acquire a job on their resume to get into college. We had 28 Golden State Seal merits on diplomas, so that's a mastery in high school of at least 6 subject matters. We had 12 students who are obtaining the seal of biliteracy, and they were recognized a couple weeks ago. 8 of our EL students have been reclassified. 70 students got the I-CARD certification in our auto program. 15 students are now OSHA certified. 45 CPR certified. 51 students earned transferable college credit. We have 30 students who graduated this week and they're at college, and they're certified nursing program. So if you guys are out there, I think we all deserve to give them a big round of applause.
Yeah.
Mia, who is here tonight, it was a great event. It was very well organized. He told me it'd be within an hour, and it was 62 minutes. I was not counting, but I know time is.
It would have been within 62, but it starts 7 minutes late.
Oh, yeah, but I appreciate your respect for our parents. You did a great job. Moving on to student activities. It's a busy month, and we had some great activities happening this week and this last month. We had a symphony who played for some of our Marks Elementary students, and that's a great picture. He's smiling from ear to ear and still talking about it. I saw his mom and him at Dollar General, and he is super excited about that opportunity. So that's Diego. Bryant Middle School continues to engage our students, and it's evident in our decreasing numbers of suspensions. The lunchtime activities are absolutely working. GC had a first annual day on the green. And if you zoom in on it, oh, you can't see her here. You see Rhonda in the middle, super excited. Like, hey, it's like, where's Waldo? So she did an awesome job offering lunch to our students. On the left-hand side, DPE open house was last night, and we served 1,075 hot dogs. So it was packed.
There was
at the
a lot of
DPE
people there.
open house
I think a
and
lot of
lots of smiling faces. Teachers did a great job of presenting their classrooms very professionally at fun time. And DPHS bottom left-hand quarter and Bryant Middle School spring band concert was last week. We had quite a bit of great attendance on that, and Mr. Rodriguez did a great job. So those are activities for the month of April. For past month. District news and upcoming events. This went out as a parent square, superintendent snapshot, and just a list of the activities happening within our district. What the name is, sponsored, and location for everybody to support our students. So looking forward to finishing the year strong. To close out my report, just like to acknowledge some of the shout outs from the previous month. Out of 127 schools in the central section, DPHS athletic teams made the top 5 in GPAs in baseball, softball, and boys swimming. So that was a huge accomplishment. And we also had 2 students recognized at the CIF Awards Dinner as scholar athletes. They also obtained scholarships. So it was for Derek Von Almond and Taylor Norma. Congratulations. EL specialist at our EL reclassification dinner. All of our administrators were there, and our EL team did a great job honoring our students that are classified. It's a huge honor. And another Dpol shout out to our syllabi literacy students. And last, Mrs. Hunger had 2 students, Antonio Isordia and Edgar Ayanes, who are the top team in the national stock market game. So I'm gonna find them when they're 18 and invest in money. So, great stuff happening. And I'd just like to thank all of our staff for making it happen.
7.3, report from board members. Ms. Austin, Mr. Van Werth.
Yeah, just a couple of updates from the softball, baseball world. Softball yesterday won in the bottom of the 12th inning, 2-1. And we'll play Morro Bay tomorrow in the second round. And it was pretty amazing to me. Both pitchers pitched the whole 12 innings, and they both had 19 strikeouts from San Joaquin Memorial and Dpol. So that's sort of unheard of. Our girls scored 2, and again, the bottom of the 12th to win it. It was pretty exciting. And then
Yeah,
boy-
our girl got a D1 scholarship to go to Arkansas.
Yeah, right. And that little gal that pitched for Memorial is going to be, schools are going to be drooling over her already. So then baseball on Tuesday lost the first round game 13-12, which is a wild one. So sort of update on softball and baseball.
Mr. O'Manion.
I attended the junior high open house last week, to whenever it was, as well as DPE's last night. Both of them, I thought they did a great job, great support, a lot of people. At the elementary was a lot of people. There was a lot of interaction. I think things are definitely looking up.
Mr. Bonds.
I have nothing.
Mrs. Araya.
I did not get to participate in the appreciation video, but I do appreciate all of DPOL staff. I was fighting a sinus infection. Megan did give me the opportunity to make the video from home, but I didn't comb my hair for 4 days, so I didn't felt pretty unpresentable, but I do appreciate everybody. Thank you.
I went by DPE yesterday earlier in the day because it's so crazy always at night. And although we all need a reset and a renew and some rest, I'm almost sad that it's the end of the school year because those kids were just so excited. And I mean, with everything they had, we grew those butterflies. And then they were just, the classrooms looked fantastic. And the kids, that reminds me of why part of the reason why I sit up here, because they're so happy. So kudos to you guys. The Bryant open house was great as well. It has been a long year for a lot of reasons, for a lot of us. Thank you very much for all your hard work. I hope you guys have a fantastic summer. I hope you have the opportunity to reset, rest, and renew, and look forward to working with all of you again next year. .4 Universal Pre-Kindergarten UPK Plan presented by Sergio Mendez, Assistant Superintendent, Educational Services. Mr. Mendez, this is an action item. Need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Banion,
Second.
second by Mr. Bonds. Mr. Mendez.
Thank you. Superintendent Grijalva and team and community members. I am going to go over actually 2 implementation plans. The first being the UPK, or the Universal Pre-Kindergarten. Detailed plans are part of your board documents. This is just going to be a summary. And then we'll seek your approval for each of the plans at the end of each presentation. So all of our learning plans, the multiple learning plans this year that we designed, are all encompassed by 4 goals. And those goals will be repeated throughout this year and upcoming years. Maximize student achievement, engage students in rigorous and relevant learning, innovative parent and community involvement, and ensuring safe and effective learning environments. Everything that we design is based on those 4 goals. So as Ms. Kopinski mentioned, the state is allotting lots and lots of monies to schools and other sectors. And part of those monies are to ensure that all 4-year-olds are in transitional kindergarten by 2025. So they are giving school districts 3 years to ensure that all 4-year-olds are in TK. They also made it a point to have districts leverage their preschools and combine the efforts to ensure that not only do we send the 4-year-olds to TK, but we also increase the amount of 3-year-olds in our preschool system and possibly 2-year-olds. So our response to that was creating a early childhood education center. And we began some of the steps with that, and we're going to continue to implement it until 2025 when it's fully functional. So how does universal pre-kinder look like? As I mentioned, the state is requiring that all 4-year-olds are in TK or transitional kindergarten by 2025. But we want to accelerate that, and we want all of our 4-year-olds here in our community to be in transitional kindergarten by 2024. So the plan that we designed is a 3-year plan. That will mean that we maximize the amount of students that are in preschool. And so our preschool as currently configured can hold 128 students because we have two sessions, AM and PM, right? But our goal by 2024 is to have approximately between 140 and 160 TK students, right? And we're going to progressively get there the next few years. Next year, we are adding 1 TK classroom. So we're going from currently 48 students to 72. The following year, we're going to add another one for a total of 4 TK classrooms. So we're going to be up to 96 students, right? All based on age. There's an age breakdown for 4-year-olds. And then by 2024, our goal is to have anywhere between 6 and 8 TK classrooms, modeled exactly just like our kindergarten. So I mentioned plans are in place and will be in place to increase our facilities, going from currently 3 classrooms next year to 8 within a 3-year time span. The preschool will remain with 3 classrooms. Increased students, increased rooms and facilities means increased personnel. So we have plans in place to go from 3 TK teachers to potentially 8. And then there's a ratio to TK where it's 12 to 1. So for every 12 students, there has to be 1 adult. So our plans include not only 8 TK teachers, but also 8 more paraprofessionals for our TK classrooms. For the time being, this endeavor will not be fully funded. The state will fully fund this endeavor and provide us ADA for the students until 2025. But we feel so compelled that this will improve student outcomes that we are willing to fund whatever we don't have, whatever's a deficit, until we reach the level where we're fully funded by the state. So next year, that means that we're going to have a balance of $115,000 or so, and we are prepared to find other funding resources to make up those funds until we get to 2025. Just like personnel is impacted and facilities are impacted, as I mentioned before, but also transportation. So now we're adding 150 potential students to our comprehensive setting. So it's going to impact transportation, facilities, not only improvements, but additions. It's going to impact our food services, and then it's going to impact our ability to monitor all the students. So our student data system is going to be impacted. So all the directors in here are going to be impacted. So with this plan. Ultimately, what the state wants to do, and the theory behind this, is that they want to get away from the traditional preschool child care model, and they want to accelerate kids earlier on to a more comprehensive school model. So they want preschool to adapt and transform more like kindergarten. So in a way that we're going to have less opportunities for play and increased opportunities for learning at a younger age. 3 years old, and then TK 4-year-olds and the such. So all of the formulas that the state has used show that the earlier students learn and the earlier they learn standards, the better off they are in the future. So our implementation timeline, we already took steps to begin this plan. One of them was presenting some of these monies at previous board meetings. Another plan obviously is to approve this plan with the board's consent tonight. And then we already hired a director that will oversee eventually not only the preschool, but also the 8 TK because they have to work together to design that system for the learning outcomes. We've also already set up for this summer professional development opportunities for both the preschool and the TK teachers. So with that, Board, I will answer any questions you may have, and then we will seek your approval of this implementation plan. Yes.
Did you, oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Rice.
So at a younger age, and you're saying that ADA is going to come in as well. So now what happens when these kids are missing school, the younger ages?
The same thing that's happening now is that we're going to have mechanisms to make sure that we're capturing enough of the students to come in and attend school.
What the May revise also revealed is that this next school year, which is a great way for us to, to start facilitating this plan, will be a full harmless year. So the ADA won't.
There's your warning, but you've got to get your babies up and.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
We're not gonna starve like TKers, right?
We already do.
But I mean, these.
But my question.
Right, are we gonna
Yeah.
starve a
It's
three-year-old?
our discretion that the system that we set up, and then we always have to be more considerate the younger they are. That has to be part of it.
I'm sure the kids are up, but the parents are.
Yeah. There's no UPK plan for the parents.
I'm just curious.
Uh-huh.
The effects obviously on transportation and meals and everything. Were those supervisors part of this whole discussion to bring this plan forward to the board as to how we are going to handle all these mouths to feed or move, or, I mean, is this was something that everyone was brought in the loop and said?
Yes.
I mean, it was.
We've shared this plan. We've shared this plan at cabinet and leadership meetings.
There's a
And-
lot more work to do.
And that's the reason why we're also starting gradually. It's just adding 24 more students initially and seeing how that impacts, and then another 24 and see how it impacts. But yes, all the departments are considered and they're part of the plan.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Call for the vote. But are you voting this round? Okay. And it passes. 7.5 Extended Learning Opportunity Program EOLP Plan. I need a motion in a second.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Van Wert, second by Mr. Mendez. Mr. Mendez.
Yes. So the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. This is the program with the plethora of monies that the government is handing out to school districts. As you mentioned, as Mr. Fiscal mentioned, over $400 million. In addition, for this program alone. So the EOLP program is focused on TK through 5th students. Its first iteration will be focused on TK through 5th students. And so the state is providing additional monies so that districts expand learning, recreation, and enrichment programs after school. For our purposes, these programs will take place at Los Palos Elementary and Marks Elementary. And the current requirements are also allowing us to partner with entities such as the city of Los Palos and other organizations. So we're going to have that opportunity. Part of the plan is to offer activities throughout the entire calendar year and also including summer and intersession days, so winter break, spring break, etc. The district currently is projected to receive 2.7 million the next 2 years to implement programs after school. So some of the programs that have been brainstormed, and once again, this is an implementation planning plan. It is nothing set in stone yet. The state is giving us the ability to really thoroughly plan this out and see the impact on the district system. So some of the things that have been brought up through some feedback, having open libraries, extended hours for our libraries, homework help stations, whether it's walk-in help that's available after school hours. We have thought about running some mini academies for things like soccer, flag football, and basketball, creating some workshops for kids that can be dance, art, and physical fitness. And then we're going to continue to partner with Assets, which is the county after-school program. Other things that are for consideration and for ideas is expanding on science, technology, engineering, and math, which is STEM, those offerings after school, gardening after school, free play. Remember, part of this is to increase the recreational opportunities for our students. Drama, miniature golf has been brought up, badminton, and even something like summer weights. So our implementation timeline is a little bit different than the UPK timeline. So currently we are still gathering information because part of the information that we lack is that the state has not told us how they're going to measure or audit these monies. And that's very difficult to plan on or plan with. Is that we can't anticipate what they're going to be measuring us on or what we can spend the monies on. They have not released those requirements yet. They have given us, they have provided information through workshops. They have provided information through informational items sent through emails, but they have not created the auditing book or the auditing manual yet. So that puts us in a very difficult position. Despite that, we have started the conversation. We have talked about the design. We have gathered information from both school and community partners. And this upcoming school year, starting now through all of next school year, will be our design year, where we actually design and set up all the activities that are needed to implement this during the 23-24 school year. So just like other learning plans, we are setting our design up to make sure that we have metrics that can be used to measure and rationalize the monies that we're spending. So we anticipate that they're going to hold us to attendance rates. We anticipate that they're going to hold us to participation rates, to make sure that we're gathering information through surveys. They're going to require that we do cost analysis, possibly 3 times a year. And then they're also going to require academic and behavioral data, because these monies are intended to improve outcomes for students. So you may be asking yourself, why those ideas and why not something more involved? Well, because we don't have all the parameters, and also because we haven't taken into consideration some of these items. Whatever we offer to TK through 5, it must be available to all TK through 5th graders in our district. So if you think about planning something, if all of them show up, we have to be prepared to receive them all for an activity. So that's very, very difficult. And they haven't given us any parameters by which we could run that. So we have to consider that. We sought out some activities where it could be high student volume, like lots of kids participating, but require very little staff to monitor it. And we say that because there's difficulty currently with staffing items, and after school activities are very difficult to staff. Other areas that we have to consider is food services and facilities, because we have to provide at least a snack for our students staying after school. We have to consider that we're going to need volunteers. and we can leverage possibly the high school for some student volunteers. I mentioned already that the plan has to involve 30 days of non-school days. So it has to be activities 30 days of the calendar year for non-school days. Things as simple as, but very complicated, parent and family pickup. What's the protocol for that? Who monitors that, right? And then weather, especially inclement weather, rainy days, extreme heat, kind of around that. Transportation, because we would like to offer transportation for those that stay after school, but we know that transportation is impacted with the lack of bus drivers. And then finally, something else that we have to plan with is that the contractual date for elementary teachers ends well after our students are dismissed. So we have to plan on activities or monitoring in between that time in case some of our staff members want to run some of these after-school activities. So that in a nutshell is the implementation plan for the DLOP program. At this time, I'll put any questions from the board.
You plan on hiring a director or somebody that heads this program?
That has been considered. That has been considering is hiring a lead for this program because it is very involved.
And because there's actually funding for that as well, correct?
Yes, that could be part of our
And there's
infrastructure.
stipends available for people that do these activities?
Yes, we want to incentivize the participation from the staff. So yes, that's what we're going to do.
So at this time, what you're approving is that we are going to move forward with implementation of ELOP. So we still have a lot to work to do,
Yeah.
and next year will be the planning year, and then you'll actually, a plan will come on how we're gonna implement for you to approve.
Do we have to spend so much of the money the first year, or we can take
We don't.
2-year period and
It'll roll
spend
over.
2 point whatever it is?
It will roll over.
and roll over?
There will be a deadline though. It will roll over for an additional year, the first. But it's also not an optional program.
It all sounds fantastic and something that obviously, I mean, we should support and try to move forward with. My concern is that there's, as is always the case, just in life in general, there's a core group of people who seem to do, you know, all the extras or a lot of the extras. And because I hear you, all of you a lot, we're short teachers, we're short bus drivers, we're short. Are we really spreading ourselves too thin and the ones that we're already taxing to just do a little more? And
That is definitely.
where are we gonna
dynamic.
find all these people? Because the people that do now, I mean, they can only do so much.
That is definitely dynamic that we took into consideration. That is ultimately what made break or make this program.
You make the stipends attractive enough, you're gonna find people.
Yes, and we hope to leverage some of the people that are volunteering already, for recreational sports in the city. We hope to pull in more people, but we're also cognizant that the activities have to be so that there can't be a high staff impact.
We've also discussed doing like 6-week times, 5-week times, so you're not doing the entire year, but taking one.
And we're also designing things, so reaching out to those that may have not participated because it's not their type of activity or outlet. So we may have some teachers and paraprofessionals, some community members that are really into something like drama, and they haven't participated before, but now can be implanted.
This is nice.
So if we're bringing in these young guys, what is the age that this starts right here? This is not like you're gonna be bringing a 3-year-old in, they're now attending school and now they're gonna be here till 6 o'clock at night.
They could,
TK?
they could, huh?
That's a long day.
And that's what he said, it's gotta impact somebody from TK to fifth, it's gotta be
Yes.
something that somebody from little to the 5th grader can handle
And this is voluntary.
at the same time.
Yes, at the same. Well, not necessarily at the same time. So that's something that we have
Sessions.
flexibility. But it does have to be offered, and there has to be a progression offered. That's calendar. So yes. Lots of moving parts.
Any more questions? Let's call for the vote. Call for the vote so that you can keep looking into this, but this isn't the final vote until all of these questions have been answered.
Correct.
We'll have updates.
And it passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Information and discussion item 8.1 GPHS WASP mid-cycle report. Doreen Castillo, Dpol High School. Mrs. Castillo.
Good evening, everybody. So the high school had the tremendous opportunity this year to have a WASC review. If those of you that will recall, every 6 years WASC comes out and does a full review of the high school and decides if we are worthy of accreditation. My partners over there, Mr. Van Alman as principal and Holly Corvelli when she was the assistant principal 3 years ago, were part of that process. And back in 2018 and 19, this is what they said the high school needed to focus on, these 5 areas. Next slide, Mr. Lee, please. They said mathematics, they want us to refine and improve our curriculum, improve our practices for assessment, and they wanted overall academic achievement. They said priority number 2 was technology. They felt that we needed to integrate digital literacy and have a system to measure proficiency, and they wanted professional development for our teachers. They said the 3rd item that we needed to look at was school culture. They felt we needed effective interventions. We needed to motivate our students for success, and we needed to have fun activities. They thought the 4th area that we needed to focus on was parent and community involvement. And they wanted to make sure that our populations, such as our English language learner parents, our low-income parents, and our foster youth had a voice at the table. And the 5th area they felt that we needed to focus on was the implementation of professional learning committees or PLCs. So back in March on the 24th, they came out. We had a 1-day visit. Our team spent the year preparing our report. For those of you who've been in our district for a long time, Faye Johnson, a blast from the past, was our visiting committee chair. She and the assistant principal from Avenel, Eric Smyers, did our review. And they stated that we could continue on with our 6-year accreditation, but they wanted to talk about some of our strengths. Some of our strengths they felt was that the community, our staff and our students, everybody had pride in the high school. They felt that we've made tremendous growth towards our English SBAC scores and closing that achievement gap. And they felt that the multiple pathways we had within our CTE class offerings was something that should be modeled, their schools should be modeled after. And they really felt that the infrastructure within our technology department was stellar. They liked the improved networking. They liked the cell phone towers. They loved the fact that all of our students had devices in their hands, and they felt that the teachers were getting better at using that technology. However, their job was to find areas that we needed to improve. And so they stated that item number 4, parent and community involvement and collaboration, when they were there 3 years ago, was no longer a need. That had been met and we could remove that. But they did say that they were still concerned about our math scores. They wanted us to continue on the same pathway of improving those. They felt that technology was still a need. We respectfully agreed to disagree because we feel that we have made leaps and bounds. If we've spent the last 2 years on COVID and everything is a virtual world and all we use is technology, but again, they still felt that that was an area of growth for us. And they still stated that they wanted us to continue on working on our school culture and climate, specifically focusing on not just the regular school day, but what we were doing with after school programs and activities for kids. And they added a new goal. They were highly concerned about the fact that there has been such huge turnover over the last, they stated in the report, 10 years at the high school. Everything from administration to our classified to our certificated. In the 3 years since they had been here, we have had 3 new principals, 3 new assistant principals, a whole new counseling staff, and 11 out of our current 33 teachers have been there less than 3 years. So they wanted that addressed immediately. How are we going to meet these needs, these critical areas of need, and how are we addressing that? So with regards to our math achievements, we are currently making sure that we are vertically aligned within the entire district. We added additional math labs. We're very excited that we are rolling out a brand new piloted math curriculum. We are going away from traditional math, so Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry, and going to an integrated math model, and that is starting at the lower grades as well. And we have had an entire year of MCOE support. They're here on our campus at least once a month, if not more. And so we're also offering additional professional development for our teachers. So we are well on our way to trying to address that need. Within regards to technology, we are very, very much so looking forward to partnering with a company called Mobile Minds next year. That is a Google platform that offers certifications and everything that is Google. We are a Google Classroom to our teaching and our support staff. We have integrated digital curriculum across all subjects. And we're going to continue to explore possible new offerings, whether we bring back some kind of a computer class or how we integrate that more. But the limitation on that is we're trying to get our kids away from the computer, too much screen time. We want to go back to direct instruction. So again, we're kind of agreeing to disagree on this one. School culture, we've made leaps and bounds with our PBIS program. That's celebrating kids doing the right thing. Our MTSS program is for trying to capture our kids who are struggling and need some interventions. We are hoping to hire a third intervention counselor that we're using some of those temporary dollars to fund. We want to expand our ASB offerings. As Mr. Mendez just talked about ELOP, we're hoping to incorporate some of our high school students to be volunteers to help out with that. And we started a new program this year every Wednesday called Pride Time. It's hitting on those social emotional learning needs, and we're using that as a platform as well to change some of our culture. And as far as our staff retention, Mrs. Davis, you made reference to it a couple times this evening, and I kind of just had to chuckle about resetting, reimagining, and reinventing. This year's theme from our superintendent on down was one town, one district, one goal, reimagined. As we move forward, we want to make sure that we are doing that with the new leadership from the very top all the way down. I feel that we're going to be able to retain our staff, and so we're looking forward to that. And lastly, it's a circle. As we continue to grow, our goal is how can we meet those critical areas of need. 2025 seems to be a popular year. That's the year that Mr. Mendez made reference to, but it will be here before we know it. WASP will be here for a full entire 3-day visit then, and we will start this whole process all over again. They're going to make sure that we've made gains towards these 4 areas, and hopefully we've met that goal. Any questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. 8.2, first reading, March 2022 policy updates. Would you, ladies and gentlemen, care for me to read all of these?
No.
Okay, yes, resoundingly yes. Mrs. Wilhelm, would you like to comment on that item at all?
We had our first read, and we'll approve the next.
8.3, resignations and retirements.
Just like to thank everybody for their time and commitment to our district and to our students.
9.1, public concerns will be heard by the board at this time. However, they will not be discussed. Policy 9323 limits individuals' presentation to 3 minutes. The president may extend this time under certain circumstances. This is the opportunity for members of the public to focus on issues important to the district's purpose of education. Under board policy, this time may not be used to present derogatory information of a personal nature on any employee. Members of the public who wish to address the board must speak from the podium and identify themselves. You can always get up and say something positive too. Okay. Routine consent items, 10.1. The consent calendar represents routine items acted upon in one motion by roll call vote. The recommendation is for adoption unless otherwise specified. Any item can be removed for discussion upon request. 10.2 Ingenuity Independent Study Program Renewal 2022-2023 school year. 10.3 Imagine Learning ELA and Math Supplemental Program Renewal. 10.4 CUDA Mathematics Supplemental Software Renewal 2022-2023. 10.5 Renaissance ELA and Math Supplemental Program Renewal 2022-2023. 10.6 McGraw-Hill World of Wonders TK Curriculum Order 2022-2023 school year. 10.7 VMware License Renewal. 10.8 MCOE Professional Development Summer Session and School Year Work Plan and Contracts 2022-2023 school year. 10.9 Career Technical Education Incentive Grant Award. 10.10 Contract for Facilities, Lease of Classrooms with Merced County Office of Education, Dos Palos High School Room 22 and 23, and Dos Palos Elementary School Room 35. 10.11 2022-2023 Merced County Office of Education MOU Teacher Induction Program. 10.12 School Employers Association of California Joint Powers Agreement. 10.13 Monetary donation for Dos Palos High School Positive Minds Car Club. 10.14 Monetary donation to Bryant Middle School student participation for National Youth Leadership Forum Explore STEM Program. 10.15 Board meeting minutes of 4/14/22 regular board meeting, 5/4/22 special board meeting. 10.16 overnight trip for National Youth Leadership Forum NYLF Explore STEM Program. 10.17 warrants and payroll. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Brien, second by Mr. Bonds. Are there any questions? Call for the vote.
Yeah, you need to drink water.
And it passes. That's the time, Mr. Becker. 11.1 McGraw-Hill Reveal Integrated One Mathematics Pilot 2022-2023 school year. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bond, second by Mr. O'Banion. Mrs. Grijalva.
Mrs. Castillo referenced this in the WASP report. McGraw-Hill will be piloting at Dos Palos High School for integrated one mathematics.
Okay, are there any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes. 11.2 Student Engagement, BMX Assembly for Elementary Summer Camps. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds, second by Mrs. Reyes. Mrs. Graham.
DPE and Marks will be hosting summer camp for summer school, and part of their student engagement is facilitating a BMX assembly for our students.
Any questions about BMX? Okay, call for the vote. Mr. Rain, Ms. Austin? Is it being mean to you? And it passes. 11.3 2022-2023 District First Day Packet Parent Notice of Rights and Responsibilities. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bond, second by Mr. O'Banion. Mrs. Graham.
This will be the first day of school packet or student registration packet that's in the registration process for our parents to approve.
Any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes. 11.4 District Approved Curricular Resources List 2022-2023 school year. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Banion, second by Mr. Bonds. Mrs. Grijalva.
So this is our approved curricular resource list for the 22-23 school year. That outlines the curriculum that's used and supplemental curriculum used in classroom at each of the sites.
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes. 11.5 District Assessment Calendar 2022-2023 school year. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds, second by Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Brown.
So this calendar will outline all of the district mandatory assessments for our students in hopes of being transparent when we're facilitating assessments and a tool for our teachers and for our parents.
Any questions? Call for the vote. Maybe.
I got another.
Nada, nada y nada también. Don't laugh at me. Oh, so you just needed to get up.
Gonna walk near the center.
And it passes. 11.6, 2022-2023 district events. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds, second by Mrs. Reyes, Mrs. Grijalva.
The list of events for 22-23 school year by site and district sponsored events that we recommend approval. Move forward on planning.
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. And it passed. 11.7 adoption, December 2021 policy updates. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds,
Second.
second by Mrs. Arias, Mrs. Grijalva.
The first read was approved in April, and so we're moving forward for adoption for December updated policies.
Any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes. 11.8 adoption, regulation 5126 awards for achievement. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds, second by Mr. O'Banion. Mrs. Grijalva.
So a new policy that we recommend to outline what awards for achievement are utilized for and how they're distributed.
Any questions? Call for the vote. Good thing Watts isn't here. You guys are way too serious out there.
Oh, it's me too. Are you voting? There it goes. There it goes.
I was born 20. Yeah, 20. Yeah.
First shot. Assistant. Him and I want to shoot the Wi-Fi.
And it passes. 11.9 side letter of agreement between Dos Palos Oro Loma Joint Unified School District and Dos Palos Oro Loma California School Employees Association, CSEA, chapter number 761, regarding holidays. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds, second by Mr. O'Banion. Mrs. Grijalva.
This is two side letters to recognize Cesar Chavez and Juneteenth as holidays in our CBA.
Any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes. 11.10 DPOL Behavior Response Handbook. I need a motion and a second.
So
Moved by Mr. O'Banion, second by Mr. Bonds. Mrs. Grijalva.
Our teams have been working really hard on consistency in our response to behaviors from TK, 3-year-olds, all the way to seniors. So this is the handbook that we will move forward to create that consistency and transparency for the 22-23 school year.
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes. Look at that. 11.11 Dos Palos High School Athletics Coaches Handbook, 2022-2023. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Banion,
second.
second by Mr. Bonds. Mrs. Grijalva.
Updated athletics handbook / coaches handbook for the 22-23 school year.
Any question? Call for the vote. And it passes. 11.12 School Zone Publishing Literacy Numeracy Flashcards Order 2022-2023 school year. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bond, second by Mr. O'Banion. This is for Holland.
Our teams are requesting approval for literacy and numeracy flashcards to provide to our students and parents at home to increase outcomes.
Any questions? Call for the vote.
Server error. Application.
Are you joking? Word?
No, it's getting up.
I got it.
Call for, or it passes.
Just briefly.
11.13 Revised COVID-19 Prevention Plan, CPP, May 2022. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Grijalva.
I'm gonna stop saying that I'm gonna bring this to you every 6 months, because I think I bring it to you every month, but this is an updated COVID-19 prevention plan that we're required to implement.
Any questions about our friend COVID-19?
No,
Call for the vote.
didn't know it was still around.
And it passes. Just so you think I'm not crazy, it pops up there before it pops up down here. So that's why I'm not calling it as soon as you see it, because I don't see it. 11.14 Revised 2022-23 School Calendar. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Banion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bond. Mrs. Grijalva.
Revised calendar to incorporate the two holidays and move the kickoff from the 5th to the 4th of August.
Any question? Call for the vote. And it passed. 11.15 American Legion Auxiliary California Girls State Sash at Dos Palos High School graduation ceremony. I need a motion and a second. Moved by Mrs. Davis.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Array.
That wasn't very fair.
I'm recommending approval of the American Legion Auxiliary sash as an acceptable attire for, or an approved attire for this graduation year. And one of our students earned this recognition, and we'd like to recognize her.
Any questions? Call for the vote. I didn't want someone to think Dottie's key got stuck on repeat, Mr. Obey. Is there the risk in your vote?
Mine barely popped up.
Okay.
And it
Go down,
got
Turbo.
slow your roll.
You guys put pressure on speed, so you know, what you talking about me after the game. 12.1, extra duty for extra pay head cook for senior breakfast. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Banion, second by Mr. Van Wert. Mrs. Grijalva.
I recommend approval for additional support for senior breakfast.
Any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes. 12.2, extra duty for extra pay food servers. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds,
Second.
second by Mr. O'Banion. Mrs. Grijalva.
So recommending extra pay for extra duty for food servers to hand out meals to children 1 to 18, 5 days a week.
Any questions? Call for the vote. And it passed. 12.3, certificated staff. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Banion, second by Mr. Barnes. Mrs. Grijalva.
Recommend the certificate staff for the 22-23 school year.
Any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes. 12.4, classified staff. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Banion, second by Mr. Barnes. Mrs. Grijalva.
I recommend the 12 staff members to, for approval to start immediately.
Any questions?
Right.
Call for the vote. And it passes. 12.5, summer school classified staff. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds,
Second.
second by Mr. Van Wert.
Recommend approval of the 27 classified staff members to implement 4 campuses in summer school.
Any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes. 12.6, summer school certificated staff. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonds, second by Mr. Van Wert.
He's
Mrs.
away.
Grijalva.
Recommend approval for our certificated staff. summer school.
Any questions? Call for the vote. And it passes at lightning speed. 12.7, aquatics program staff. I need a motion and a
So
second.
moved.
Moved by Mr. O'Banion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bonds. Mrs. Grijalva.
Recommend the 8 new employees for our aquatics program to run our summer aquatics program this summer for some.
Any questions? Call for the votes. And it passed.
You see the robot.
Written reports, 13.1, educational services. Sergio Mendez, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. 13.2, food services, Rhonda Sullivan, Director of Food Services. 13.3, health services, Priscilla Whitaker, credentialed school nurse. 13.4, human resources, Jason Van Almen, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. 13.5, intervention and alternative education, Holly Crivelli, Director of Intervention and Alternative Education. 13.6, maintenance, operation, and transportation, Matthew McCulloch, MOT Director. 13.7, preschool, Virginia Franco, preschool director. 13.8, special education, Laura Delmas, Director of Special Education. 13.9, technology services, Paujay Lee. Are there any questions? Okay. 14.1, requests from board members for future agenda items. Ms. Austin. Mr. Van Worth, Mr. Van,
Nothing.
Mr. Bonds,
I have nothing.
Mrs. Arraez. Mrs. Davis has nothing as well. 15.1,
So moved.
Second.
call for the vote.
I was gonna say, now it's gonna act up.
And it passes, meeting adjourned. Thank you. Have a safe trip home.